Hello, I'm talking here with my buddy Takakeisho. He wants to go climbing, but first, he needs a rope. Stop throw! Oh, sorry.
Roll the salt, get in the ring. Welcome to the Dohyo.
Hello and welcome back to the Dohyo here on MrJWags channel. We had a fascinating January Basho, and we are going to get to that in just a second, but we are going to start with two sad announcements. First of all, Okinoumi has gone intai. Yes. Okinoumi had been in professional sumo since 2005. In his career, his highest rank was Sekiwake. He ended up with 3 Jun Yusho, 5 special prizes, and 4 Kinboshi. He was always a class act out there on the Dohyo, and he will be missed. Now, in related but also sad news, Okinoumi was, of course, the favorite rikishi of Jason Harris, the founder, creator, and star of Jason's All Sumo channel, which, as I have mentioned on my previous video, has now been completely stricken from YouTube. Watch the other video if you want to hear my thoughts on it, but yeah, this is a huge blow to the English-speaking sumo community. I cannot fathom the sense of loss Jason is feeling. Thank you for all your work, and I'm so sorry this happened. Okay, let's talk about that January Basho. Gotta get this out of the way.
JWags was wrong.
This is one of those times when I was overjoyed to be wrong. Takakeisho got his 3rd Yusho. Amazing. I thought he was going to go Kyujo. He hasn't been the most consistently attentive rikishi throughout his career, gone Kyujo many times. He's managed to put together an excellent stretch of about a year of sumo, and he's knocking on the door of Yokozuna. We will talk about that in a second. The thing I was most excited about in this tournament was the development of Takakeisho's throw game. He had 3 throws, including his clincher against Kota Shoho, where he looks like he is now developing a new angle to his sumo. I have a whole video about how one-dimensional Takakeisho's sumo is and how it limits him. If he has now developed a go-to Kotenage, that is amazing. That gives him a weapon when he goes body to body with someone. He now has a real weapon to use against them. Now, although he didn't go Kyujo, Takakeisho was hurt on day 11 and managed to push through the rest of the tournament, and he ended up winning the tournament on one of those throws. So I'm hoping this becomes a much bigger part of his arsenal going forward. This could allow him at age 26 to take another tiny leap to improve his sumo to Yokozuna level. I mean, I hate calling Takakeisho a one-trick pony, but before this tournament he had 2 Kotenage in his entire career. He doubled that amount in this tournament alone. Now, the challenge for him getting to Yokozuna seems to be he's getting the Yushos and the Yusho equivalents. They said that the playoff counted as a Yusho equivalent, but that this Yusho was not strong enough. Now, this gets into the debate of what is an actual Yokozuna, and I have to remind everyone, it is in no way up to us. The JSA did not even allow the Yokozuna Deliberation Council to convene to discuss the matter. The JSA seems pretty sure that this needs to be a higher level of sumo before we reach Yokozuna level. And I have to agree. First of all, this Basho itself had a very weak Banzake. We had 1 Ozeki, Takakeisho. We had 1 Yokozuna, who was hurt. And 2 of the top contenders, Hoshodyu and Takeyasu, were both hurt, and one of them was Kyujo, and the other one was clearly not wrestling his best at the end of the tournament. So when you take into account a historically weak Banzake and only getting a 12-3, even though he fought through that injury, I just don't see that as being dominant enough to be able to say, hey, you're a living Hall of Famer in this sport, which is essentially what Yokozuna is. Part of getting the Yokozuna rope is a show of dominance, and Takakeisho, while currently the best, is not showing sustained dominance. But he's had 4 double digits in a row! No one else has been winning like that over the past 4. What do you mean dominance? Well, I believe recency bias has fooled us all into thinking 12-3 Yusho are far more common than they actually have been. Quick sidebar. Now, if we look back from this January all the way to the beginning of 1958, the beginning of the 6 Basho a year period, what I like to call the birth of modern sumo, we've had 389 Basho in that time period. Now, if you look through all 389 of those Basho, like I have, you will find out that the vast majority of those Yusho are 13 and 14 win Yusho. Under 11% of all of the Yusho from now till back to 1958, under 11% were 11 or 12 win Yushos. So yeah, roughly 1 in 10. And in the past 6 Basho, we've had 5. Now, interesting thing, when I was searching through Sumo reference to get all these stats, I made a mistake that somehow didn't add up. I ended up going through all the Yusho by typing in like 11 wins, 4 losses, 12 wins, 3 losses, you know, doing the binary combinations of wins and losses, but I kept coming up 1 Yusho short. I kept coming up only with like 388. So I ended up scouring through all of them to find that we had 1 Yusho in that time that did not end up neatly with those 5 scores. We had 1, 12, 2, and 1. And that was really exciting one. Sidebar of a sidebar. All right, November 1973, Wajima ended up winning a tournament with a 12, 2, and 1 record. Yes, the winner of the tournament went Kyujo. So he won his first 12, and then going into day 13, Kotozakura had the match right before him. He ended up losing the match for his 4th loss, so Wajima ended up clinching the championship right before he walked into the ring for his 13th match, which he promptly lost to Kitano Fuji and got hurt, so he immediately went Kyujo, missing days 14 and 15, but he had already clinched the Yusho. A fascinating piece of sumo that I've never quite gone into before, so I hope you enjoyed it. Double quick sidebar. So for Takakeisho, what will it take to get the rope? Tachiai.org has done a wonderful pair of articles, the case for Yokozuna Takakeisho and the case against. I'm so sorry to say that I agree mostly with the against. It seems like the reasons for his Yokozuna promotion seem to be largely practical. It's a weak Banzake. We're running out of Ozeki. If he gets hurt, who's our next Ozeki, and could it possibly happen in the next 2 tournaments before he would end up going down? What happens if people get... Like, it just seems like it would be something that solved a problem rather than this guy has clearly passed the historical Yokozuna standard, which, as I've shown, I don't think he has. Hey, just because you're really, really hungry does not make that hamburger a steak. It just makes that a really good hamburger. Right now, I feel like Takakeisho is an excellent Ozeki, something we have not had since Goeido, I think. So we shouldn't look past the fact that it's very hard to be an excellent Ozeki. That said, I think 1 more Yusho in a row will be undeniable for him. Or if he gets a June Yusho or a playoff loss with 13 or more wins, I'd say they'd have to give him the rope at this point. Good luck, man. And it wouldn't be a recap episode without Uncle Sumo's Attaboys. Of course, this is just a section where we give a little extra attaboy to those wrestlers who had an excellent tournament. And starting off our attaboys, future Yokozuna, Kota Shoho! Alright, I've been off the Kota Shoho wagon for a little bit. He's spent about 1.5 years in the wilderness working his way back from that injury. If you forget, Kota Shoho leapt up to the Makauchi division at 20, did really well, got up to like Maegashira 3, got hurt, and was not quite the same. Went down to Juryo and now has worked his way back up. He'd been sort of hanging around lower Maegashira. This appears to be the breakout we have been waiting for. I thought no Maegashira 10 or below was going to get more than 10 wins. Kota Shoho cleared that easily. His defense looked amazing, and the most impressive thing I saw out of him was the fact that he won with pushing, thrusting, belt, and throwing techniques this tournament, which for me is the most important aspect of his sumo he needs to improve. He ended up getting the Kanto Sho, and he's only 23, so I see huge things for him in his future. Now, of course, the downside is he only faced 1 Sanyaku member, Takakeisho, lost to him. So if I'm saying Takakeisho faced a weak Banzake, Kota Shoho faced an even weaker one. But in a Banzake with this much top-to-bottom parity, how much does a Sanyaku win really mean anyway? And I will say that Kota Shoho, to his credit, faced and defeated 3 former champs, Abi, Daieisho, and Tochinoshin, in what could be his final match. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But our next attaboy, Komasubi Kiribayama, he got the other Jun Yusho with 11 and 4 and got the Gino Sho Technique Prize. Very excited for him on that. This is his first double-digit Sanyaku tournament. He got a couple more in the Joy, like at 10 wins, but this is 11 wins in the Sanyaku, and this is huge, giant Sanyaku, so you know he was facing the best wrestlers possible at this point. I think this is an excellent point in his sumo. He is about to turn 27 in April, so he has 1 more tournament at 26. He's hitting those peak years. Does he have enough room left in the tank to maybe either grow a little bit in his sumo, or are the top rankers in sumo going to start sliding a bit for him to start popping up into the Ozeki discussion? I will say that he has risen on my future Ozeki rankings. A double attaboy for our Maegashira's 14, Ichi Yamamoto and Azumaryu. Ichi Yamamoto, or as we like to call him, store brand Abi. He has not had an entirely successful Makuuchi career. This is his first Kachikoshi, I think, in 4 tournaments, and he got his first double-digit wins. Good for him. I'm glad to see he is starting to get his sea legs in Makuuchi. He's a little bit on the other end of the aging curve, so I don't necessarily see him as a threat to be like Joy regular in the future, but am happy to see him improving. And Azumaryu, 35 years old and got his first Kachikoshi in the top division. Dude, attaboy. Like, of all the sumo parties they must have had after the Basho, that's the one I wanted to go to. Another dual attaboy for 2 inconsistent pusher thrusters, Maegashira 1 Daisho and Maegashira 8 Onosho. I expected Onosho to have a good tournament down in mid-Maegashira. He did in the Yusho race for a while. He seems to be largely over his weeble-wobble problems, that is the face plant he tends to do when he loses. It started peaking a little bit towards the end of the tournament, so hopefully he'll be able to keep that defense he had at the beginning of the tournament. Daisho, I've been saying that, like, I've been hard on Daisho recently, and he's due for a good tournament. He is the kind of Rikishi who has 1 or 2 good tournaments a year. I wouldn't say this is going to be the start of an Ozeki run from him based on his previous history. He is 29, but I think this is going to bump him back up to the Sanyaku, which is where I think his true talent level lies. Attaboy. And our final attaboys, a pair of older Rikishi who managed to get 9 and 6s. Maegashira 9 Endo and Maegashira 2 Tamawashi. 9 and 6 in your 30s is difficult anywhere in the Makuuchi Banzuke. Endo has really not been feeling his shine recently, but this is a positive step. Hopefully he can build on this. Again, I don't expect like a Ozeki run out of him, but always good to see Endo wrestling well. And Tamawashi, oldest man on the Banzuke, still up in the joy, facing the toughest possible schedule and getting winning records. He gets an attaboy every time he does that from me. Every time. You go, old man. Well, the first thing I'd like to say about this tournament is it seemed to me there was like a lot of henka, like more than usual. What do you guys think? Now, we've talked about the henka before. I do not see it as necessarily a shameful thing in sumo, and I think it would be a good idea for sumo to start de-emphasizing the sort of football-charged tachiai. If you talk to John Gunning and people who've been like watching sumo for a while, older sumo did not have the bull rush tachiai we have now. It's much more of a, we're starting and we're getting ready to fight. I would really like to see sumo get more to that model. I think it will lead to smarter sumo and fewer injuries. And frankly, if you're attacking an opponent and you don't have your eyes on him, that's on you, buddy. Of course, I say that, and if like there's a henka in the Musubi no Ichiban, I get furious. It's like I said before, henkas are often good tactics. They are almost always terrible theater. I think we can safely say goodbye to the 10-man Sanyaku we've been sort of rocking for the past few tournaments. We're going to see some very clear demotions this time. Obviously, our Yokozuna and our Ozeki are going to be staying put. Nice, good, stay there. Of our Sekiwake. Now, Wakataka Kage ended up finishing with 9 wins. As I predicted, he's going to stay where he is. Of course, I mean, he had an 8 last tournament and a 9 this tournament. I don't see that as being anywhere on an Ozeki run unless he pops out with a Zensho. So I think this 9 could possibly be the first of a possible Ozeki run. Hoshodyu, of course, ended up getting hurt about halfway through the tournament, gutted out the rest of the tournament on what appeared to be a very hurt ankle, ended up getting his Kachikoshi on the very last day on a hair pull win versus Onosho. Not pretty, but I'm sure he's going to take it. So, he had an 11 win last tournament, 8 wins this tournament, 14 or 15 win Yusho next tournament, I think would get him Ozeki consideration. I don't think that's going to happen, though. I would love it if it did. Kiribayama with an 11-4 is probably going to jump up from Komusubi to Sekiwake. I think his excellence has been consistent enough, and 11 wins is enough to get him a 1-rank promotion. However, Takayasu and Shodai are both going to be going down. Takayasu, of course, went Kyujo. He's high enough on the Banzuke where he's not going to like drop completely off the Banzuke. He's going to drop to mid-Maegashira, which I think is going to be excellent for his chances next tournament. And Shodai, of course, has dropped out of like Ozeki Wake, the Sekiwake slot you get when you're coming down from Ozeki. He did not get a Kachikoshi. He's going to be going down into the Maegashira ranks, which will clear some space in the Sanyaku. Sorry, Shodai. It was fun while it lasted. As for our Komusubi, we are going to keep Wakamoto Haru. Now, Wakamoto Haru surprised me and got 9 wins in his Sanyaku debut. I don't know why I keep underestimating him. He's just a very non-flashy, fundamentally sound Rikishi, so I guess he's not as attention-grabbing as some of the others, but he's been putting in the work and he's been getting the results. Great work, Wakamoto Haru. Give him a retroactive attaboy. He belongs there too. Of course, I said Kiribayama's going to get promoted. Kota Nowaka got his 8th win on the last day, so he's going to stay there. A light Kachikoshi, as predicted. And Meisei did not do very well at all. Got 5 wins. Is he hurt? We're not sure. He doesn't seem to be quite ready to be back in the Sanyaku. He will be taking a tumble down. Now, who's going to get promoted up into the Sanyaku? I think Daisho definitely has a shot at forcing another Komusubi slot with a 10 and 5 right at Maegashira 1. Ooh, we have Tobizaru at 8 and 7, like a half rank above him. So, I think Tobizaru is going to be frozen at Maegashira 1, and that Daisho is going to leapfrog him with those 2 wins. And then we're going to get an under promotion for a 9 and 6 Tamawashi up to Maegashira 1. So I think it's going to bring us down to like an 8 or 9 man Sanyaku. We'll see how it turns out, but definitely not the 10 man behemoth we've been seeing. Now it's time to see who's taken that midnight train to Juryo. Now this one's a little complicated, but it's not nearly as complicated as some of the other ones we have done in the recent past. It seems like we have 4 definite demotions for Makauchi. Maegashira 7, Ichi Nojo, who of course was suspended for the tournament for behavioral issues. Like I said, we're not going to go into that here. But an 0-15 in Maegashira 7, that's going to knock him down to Juryo. Maegashira 11, Tochinoshin, of course, got hurt very, very early in the tournament. It's the dislocated shoulder, they say, that may take weeks to months to ever recover from. Personally, I thought it was always going to be a knee injury that got Tochinoshin. Didn't have the shoulder on the bingo card. But I do not think Tochinoshin is going to go Intai until he stops drawing a salary. So let's see how far he tumbles down Juryo into Makushita and what the future holds for him. Hoping it is a minor dislocation, whatever that means, and that he can come back for a little bit. But if this was the last we saw of Tochinoshin, oh, thanks for the memories, big guy. Maegashira 12, Okano-umi, of course, went Intai mid-tournament, so everyone underneath his rank just got a half-rank promotion. Good for you. And Chiyomaru, Maegashira 16, got a 4 and 11 on the bottom of the Banzuke, so he's definitely going down as well. Now, there are 3 more Maegashira I think have demotion cases, but I think if they were dropped down to Juryo, it would be a slight over-demotion. Oho would be the number 1 up at Maegashira 8. He finished with a 4 and 11. A very disappointing tournament from him. I have to believe there was some sort of injury he was working through. He managed to like round into some sort of fighting shape at the end of the tournament, get a few extra wins there. Hopefully enough to keep him from demotion, but we will see how forgiving the Sumo Council is. Maegashira 11, Chiyoshoma, only got 5 wins, so that could bump him down to the Judo Makauchi line, and also Mitoryu, down at Maegashira 15. See, like on the last day, all the borderline people for demotion seemed to win, so I think they were really pushing to have 1 extra demotion case, and we'll see why in a second. You see, the problem is, I think we have 5 honest cases for promotion from Juryo. What do you think? On my definite list, Juryo 1, Bushozan with a 9 and 6, that's a definite. Hokuseiho at Juryo 2 got a 9 and 6, as predicted. He's going to be popping on up. Sorry, Atami Fuji, please get healthy. Juryo 5 Kinbozan had a dominating 11 and 4, he should be up. And Daishoho at Juryo 6 had 12 and 3, which should bring him up. Now the problem is, we only have 4 definite downs, and those are the first 4 in terms of promotion. But Asanoyama, down at Juryo 12, won the Yusho, and by my math, that puts him back up in Makauchi. If Asanoyama were not promoted out with a 14-1, I believe this would be the only time in judo history where a Juryo Yusho with 14-1 was not promoted to Makauchi. New York City Sirens, baby. So if the Banzuke committee is feeling in a very demote kind of mood, I could easily see them taking one of those people who might be over-demoted, dropping them down, so Asanoyama can get up to Makauchi 1 Basho sooner and start hopefully a Ryozeki run. And if they are in a super let's demote everybody mood, maybe that means Juryo 7 Chinokuni down there with a 10 and 5 might have a chance to slide in, but I think in that case that would be a slight over-promotion. So, 4 definites. If the Banzuke committee really wants to squeeze in that extra spot, I would not be mad because I think Asanoyama deserved it. What do you think? And I know I don't always talk about Makushita, but this was a fascinating tournament down there. We need to beware of Ochiai. Whoa, I hadn't heard about this guy. He's a Makushita Tsukedashi. This was his very first Basho, and his very first Yusho. Went 7-0 starting at Makushita 15. Already got promoted to Juryo. That's the first time in sumo history that has ever happened. This guy is just a beast. Check out some of his matches if you can. He's really easy to spot because he's just started growing his hair out. I see huge things for this guy's future. Between Ochiai and Hokuseiho, the Miyagino stable is looking like it is ready for a renaissance in the next few years. And possibly even more exciting for me, our Makushidas too are also both getting promoted up to Juryo, and they both have been in Makauchi before. The world's most dangerous piano player, Tomikaze, and former top division champion, Tokashoryu. They're both back in the paid ranks. Awesome. I was really worried that we weren't going to see either of them back up. I'm so glad to see that their curve is, at least for the moment, pointing back upward. Unfortunately, in sumo, every promotion comes with a demotion, and one of the people leaving Juryo this time will be Salty-san himself, Terutsuyoshi. He's going to be heading down to Makushita. Of course, he ended up getting a 0 and 15 back in November. He ended up getting like a 5 and 10 this time at the bottom of Juryo. He's not doing very well right now. Reports are he is struggling with diabetes, and I just hope he can take care of his body. And if that means finishing his sumo career, that's great. We just hope you are healthy and happy for the rest of the Terutsuyoshi time we have. We will miss you very much, although the people who have to refill the salt baskets, probably a little less so. We are at an interesting place in the story of sumo in that we had a bunch of people at the beginning of this tournament sort of on runs, and all of them have taken a step back, except for Takakeisho. We are at a turning point for Takakeisho yet again. He has this chance, he has this March Basho ahead of him, where if he does really, really well in this tournament, it is his time. This is the moment, to quote Leslie Burkus and Frank Wildhorn. Now, I brought this up before, but I think Takakeisho has been a uniquely unlucky Rikishi in terms of his Dohyo luck. He has ended up going Kyujo several times right when his body needed it the most in the middle of previous Yokozuna runs. Let's not forget Aki 2020, where Takakeisho ended up getting the Jun Yusho by 1 win. Everyone forgets he got henka'd in that tournament by Tochinoshin, a person he had been beating regularly up until that point. If he wins that match, he possibly has another Yusho. Could we have had Yokozuna Takakeisho then? In Nagoya, just this past year, there was that match between Takakeisho and Ichinojo where there was a controversial non-hair pull call. If that hair pull had been called, Takakeisho versus Terunofuji would have been the championship battle on the last day. So while Takakeisho's Dohyo luck may have been bad, I think right now his Banzuke luck is very, very good. Good in the fact that Terunofuji, the alpha dog, is probably going to be out for the March tournament. And if he's not out, he is probably going to be recovering and not 100%. Frankly, I think Takakeisho is a superior wrestler to Tamawashi, Daieisho, Abi, Tokashoryu, some of the one-and-dones, and in Tamawashi's case, two-and-done. I think Takakeisho is a fundamentally better Rikishi. And if a guy like Tokashoryu can get a 14-1, I think if Takakeisho can get a little bit of that Dohyo luck, he could pull that inside straight that some of these other Rikishi have and get a 14-1 and get that rope without a doubt. So Takakeisho, you're all alone at the top of the pyramid right now. You just got to prove yourself one more time. Get that Yusho, get that rope. Even if I, predict against you. Again. Which I likely will. Now, a prediction that is currently playing out on the yes side is that we have a whole lot of parity at the top of the Banzuke. We just have a lot of similarly talented Rikishi that have not been able to arrange themselves in the linear fashion that is necessarily required by the Banzuke. Now, is this a good thing or is it a bad thing? Now, I think in the short term, it's a great thing. I think it's very exciting as someone who watches sumo to I don't know who's going to win the tournament. As I've said before, when the Boston Celtics were winning 8 championships in a row, that's great for Boston fans, but everyone else must have been real bored for a decade. The absence of Hakuho is allowing so many more Rikishi to flourish, and that's a very exciting thing. Other people should get their moments in the sun. I think this is good for the sport. But in a sport that is based on history and everything that has come before it, how long before it starts sort of devaluing the product? How much does the health of sumo require a legend? Thank you so much for joining us here on the Dohyo. If you are new and you liked it, please like and subscribe. That just helps us spread the Dohyo to everyone on the internet. And if you didn't like it, my name is Chris Sumo. Also, if you didn't like it, why did you watch this far? All right, everyone, stay safe, stay strong, stay healthy, and I will see you next time on the Dohyo.